The morning sun cast long shadows across the manicured gardens of Windsor Castle as Queen Camilla stepped gracefully along the cobblestone pathway. Her royal blue dress rustled softly in the gentle breeze, and her pearl necklace caught the early light with each measured step. Today was meant to be a quiet family gathering, a rare moment when the pressures of royal duties could be set aside for something more personal and intimate. Princess Charlotte, now a confident young lady of 12, had been eagerly awaiting this visit from her step-grandmother. The princess had grown considerably over the past year, both in height and in her understanding of royal responsibilities. Her blonde hair was neatly braided, and she wore a simple yet elegant navy dress that complemented her bright blue eyes. There was an infectious energy about her that morning, a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. The Queen Consort had arrived at Windsor specifically to spend time with the younger generation of royals. These private moments were precious to her, offering a chance to connect with the children away from the constant scrutiny of public events and official ceremonies. Camilla had always believed that building genuine relationships with Prince William's children was essential, not just for family harmony but for the future of the monarchy itself. As Camilla approached the garden pavilion where Charlotte was waiting, she noticed the young princess practically bouncing on her toes with enthusiasm. Charlotte had been practicing her curtsy all morning, determined to greet her step-grandmother with perfect protocol. However, as children often do when overwhelmed with emotion, Charlotte forgot all about formal greetings the moment she saw Camilla approaching. The princess ran forward with pure joy, her arms outstretched and a radiant smile lighting up her face. Without thinking about royal protocol or proper etiquette, Charlotte threw her arms around Camilla in a spontaneous embrace. It was a gesture of genuine affection, the kind of uninhibited display of love that children express so naturally but that can be complicated within the rigid structure of royal life. Camilla was momentarily surprised by the enthusiastic greeting but quickly returned the embrace with warmth. She had always appreciated Charlotte's spirited nature and found these genuine moments of connection deeply meaningful. The hug lasted only a few seconds, but it was filled with the kind of authentic emotion that made all the formalities and protocols seem less important. However, what neither Camilla nor Charlotte had noticed was the presence of Senior Guard Captain Harrison, a man whose dedication to royal protocol was legendary throughout the palace staff. Captain Harrison had served the royal family for over 2 decades, and his interpretation of proper procedure was unwavering and absolute. He had positioned himself at a respectful distance to oversee the meeting, as was standard practice for any interaction involving senior members of the royal family. Captain Harrison observed the embrace with growing concern. While he understood that family affection was natural and even encouraged in private settings, he was acutely aware that they were in a semi-public space within the castle grounds. More importantly, he had recently received updated guidelines about maintaining proper protocol even during informal family gatherings, especially when any staff members or security personnel were present. The guard captain's military background had instilled in him a deep respect for hierarchy and proper procedure. In his view, Princess Charlotte, despite her young age, was third in line to the throne and should be accorded the respect that her position demanded. Queen Camilla, as the wife of the king, was certainly deserving of affection from family members, but the captain believed that even family interactions should maintain certain standards when conducted anywhere that palace staff might observe. As the embrace ended and both Camilla and Charlotte stepped back with smiles on their faces, Captain Harrison made a decision that would soon create an unexpected moment of tension. He had been trained to address any breaches of protocol immediately and directly, regardless of how minor they might seem to others. His years of service had taught him that consistency in maintaining standards was crucial to preserving the dignity and respect that the royal family commanded. The captain approached with measured steps, his posture rigid and his expression serious. His uniform was impeccable as always, every button polished and every crease perfectly pressed. The morning light reflected off his ceremonial sword and the various medals that adorned his chest, creating an imposing figure that commanded attention and respect. Both Camilla and Charlotte noticed his approach immediately. Camilla's experienced eye recognized the formal nature of his bearing, suggesting that this was not a casual greeting but something more official. Charlotte, with the intuition that children often possess, sensed that something had shifted in the atmosphere around them. Captain Harrison came to a stop at the appropriate distance and executed a perfect salute before speaking. His voice was clear and carried the authority of his position. Yet he maintained the respectful tone that was always required when addressing members of the royal family. The words that came next would create a moment that none of them would soon forget, highlighting the sometimes complex intersection of family relationships and royal protocol. What Captain Harrison said would challenge both Camilla's understanding of appropriate behavior and Charlotte's natural instincts for showing affection within her own family. The garden pavilion, which moments before had been filled with the warm sounds of family connection, suddenly became the setting for a lesson in royal protocol that would leave lasting impressions on everyone present. The morning that had begun with such promise and joy was about to take an unexpected turn that would test the balance between formal duty and genuine human emotion within the unique world of royal life. Captain Harrison's voice cut through the peaceful morning air with military precision. "Your Majesty, I must respectfully request that proper protocol be observed. Princess Charlotte is third in line to the throne, and according to updated royal guidelines, she should receive the appropriate acknowledgement of her position, even during informal family gatherings." The silence that followed was profound and uncomfortable. Camilla felt her cheeks flush slightly, not from embarrassment but from surprise at being corrected so directly. In all her years as a member of the royal family, she had never been instructed on how to greet her own step-grandchildren, especially in what she considered to be a private family moment. Charlotte looked between her step-grandmother and the imposing guard captain with wide eyes. The young princess was intelligent enough to understand that something important was happening, though she wasn't entirely sure what she had done wrong. The spontaneous joy she had felt just moments earlier began to fade, replaced by confusion and a growing sense of uncertainty. "Captain Harrison," Camilla began, her voice maintaining its characteristic composure despite the unusual nature of the situation. "I appreciate your dedication to protocol, but surely a grandmother greeting her granddaughter with affection is acceptable, even by the most stringent standards." The captain remained at attention, his expression unchanging. "Your Majesty, with the greatest respect, the updated guidelines specify that when any member of the palace, staff, or security detail is present, full protocol must be maintained. This includes proper acknowledgement of rank and position, regardless of family relationships." Charlotte shifted uncomfortably, her hands clasping and unclasping at her sides. She had been raised to understand the importance of royal protocol, but she had also been encouraged to maintain normal family relationships. The conflict between these two aspects of her life was suddenly very real and very confusing. Camilla took a deep breath, recognizing that this moment required careful handling. She understood that Captain Harrison was not acting from malice, but from a genuine belief in the importance of maintaining royal standards. However, she also felt strongly that the humanity of royal relationships should not be sacrificed for the sake of rigid protocol. "Very well, Captain," Camilla said finally, her voice steady but with an undertone that suggested this conversation was far from over. "If you believe that protocol has been breached, then what exactly do you suggest should happen now?" The guard captain had clearly thought through this scenario before approaching them. "Your Majesty, I would respectfully request that you acknowledge Princess Charlotte's position with a proper curtsy, as would be expected of any subject greeting a member of the direct line of succession." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Camilla had curtsied to Charlotte's father when he became Prince of Wales, and she had certainly shown proper respect to King Charles throughout their relationship. But the idea of curtsying to her 12-year-old step-granddaughter, especially after they had just shared a warm family embrace, seemed to highlight everything that could be problematic about rigid adherence to protocol. Charlotte's eyes widened even further as she realized what was being suggested. The thought of her step-grandmother curtsying to her was both thrilling and terrifying. On one hand, it would be a clear acknowledgement of her important position in the line of succession. On the other hand, it felt wrong to demand such formality from someone she loved and who had always treated her with warmth and kindness. "I don't think that's necessary," Charlotte said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked up at Captain Harrison with a mixture of respect and defiance that was remarkable for someone so young. "We're family. Step. Grandmother Camilla doesn't need to curtsy to me." But Captain Harrison was unmoved by the princess's protest. His years of military service had taught him that rules existed for good reasons, and that making exceptions, even for seemingly innocent situations, could lead to a gradual erosion of the respect and discipline that kept institutions strong. "Princess Charlotte," he said respectfully but firmly, "with your permission, I believe this is an important moment for you to understand the full weight of your position. You will one day be a senior member of this royal family, and it is crucial that you understand how protocol serves to maintain the dignity and authority that the monarchy requires." Camilla watched this exchange with growing concern. While she appreciated the captain's dedication to duty, she worried about the impact this moment might have on Charlotte's understanding of her role within the family. The last thing she wanted was for the young princess to begin viewing family relationships through the lens of hierarchy and formal obligation. The queen consort found herself in an impossible position. If she refused to curtsy, she would be openly defying the guard captain's interpretation of protocol, potentially undermining his authority and creating a precedent that could complicate future interactions. If she complied, she would be setting an example that could forever change the way Charlotte viewed family relationships within the royal context. The morning breeze continued to rustle through the garden, carrying with it the scents of blooming roses and freshly cut grass. Birds continued their cheerful songs, oblivious to the human drama unfolding in the pavilion. The natural beauty of the setting stood in stark contrast to the tension that had developed between protocol and personal relationships. Charlotte looked up at Camilla with eyes that seemed to be pleading for guidance. The young princess was beginning to understand that being royal meant navigating complex situations where there were no easy answers, where duty and love could sometimes conflict in unexpected ways. The guard captain remained at attention, his silence indicating that he was prepared to wait as long as necessary for a resolution to this protocol dispute. His unwavering stance suggested that, in his mind, this was not a matter for negotiation but rather a clear-cut application of royal guidelines that admitted no exceptions. Camilla realized that whatever decision she made in the next few moments would have implications far beyond this single interaction. She was acutely aware that her response would influence how Charlotte viewed her own position, how the palace staff understood the application of protocol, and how family relationships would be conducted in future informal settings. The weight of history, tradition, and family love all seemed to converge in this single moment, creating a situation that would require wisdom, grace, and careful consideration of all the competing interests involved. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only 30 seconds, Camilla made her decision. With the grace and dignity that had characterized her entire tenure as a member of the royal family, she took a small step backward and executed a perfect curtsy to Princess Charlotte. It was neither exaggerated nor reluctant, but rather a demonstration of the respect for protocol that had been requested. Charlotte's reaction was immediate and heartfelt. Her eyes filled with tears, not of joy but of distress at seeing her beloved step-grandmother curtsy to her. The young princess had witnessed countless formal ceremonies where protocol was paramount. But this felt different, more personal, and somehow wrong despite its technical correctness. "Please don't," Charlotte whispered, her voice breaking slightly. "You're my step-grandmother, not just a subject. I don't want you to curtsy to me." Captain Harrison observed the completion of the curtsy with satisfaction, believing that proper protocol had been restored and an important lesson had been taught. However, he began to notice the emotional impact his intervention was having on the young princess, and for the first time since approaching them, he began to question whether his rigid interpretation of the guidelines had been entirely appropriate for this particular situation. Camilla rose from her curtsy and immediately stepped forward to place a gentle hand on Charlotte's shoulder. "My dear," she said softly, "protocol exists to show respect for your position and the responsibility you will one day carry. But it doesn't change the love and affection we share as family members." The wisdom in Camilla's response became apparent as she continued speaking, addressing both Charlotte's emotional distress and the guard captain's concerns about proper procedure. "Captain Harrison is absolutely correct that your position deserves recognition and respect. However, I think we can find ways to honor both protocol and family relationships." Charlotte wiped her eyes and looked up at her step-grandmother with admiration. Even in this difficult moment, Camilla was teaching her something important about leadership and grace under pressure. The young princess began to understand that being royal meant finding ways to balance competing demands while maintaining dignity and compassion. Captain Harrison, recognizing that the situation had become more complex than he had initially anticipated, stepped forward with a slightly softer expression. "Princess Charlotte, Your Majesty, perhaps I may suggest a compromise that honors both protocol and family relationships." Both Camilla and Charlotte turned their attention to the guard captain, curious about what solution he might propose. His years of experience had taught him that the most effective protocols were those that could be adapted to serve their intended purpose, without creating unnecessary hardship or conflict. In future informal family gatherings, Captain Harrison continued, perhaps Princess Charlotte could be greeted first with a brief acknowledgement of her position, followed immediately by the family affection that is so clearly genuine and important to both of you. Camilla considered this suggestion carefully. It would mean a slight formalization of family interactions, but it might also help Charlotte understand the balance she would need to maintain throughout her life between her public role and private relationships. Charlotte, despite her youth, grasped the implications of what was being suggested. She would receive the respect due to her position, but she would not be denied the warmth of family love. It was a compromise that acknowledged both sides of her identity, as both a royal heir and a beloved family member. "I think that sounds fair," Charlotte said slowly, her natural wisdom shining through despite her young age. "But I also think that when we're truly alone, when there's absolutely no one else around, we should be able to just be family." Both Camilla and Captain Harrison were impressed by the princess's mature response to a complex situation. She had managed to find a way forward that respected everyone's concerns, while also asserting her own understanding of what family relationships should entail. Camilla smiled warmly at her step-granddaughter. "I think that's an excellent suggestion, Charlotte. You're showing the kind of wisdom that will serve you well throughout your life." Captain Harrison nodded approvingly. "Princess Charlotte, your solution demonstrates the kind of thoughtful leadership that will benefit the monarchy in years to come. You have successfully balanced respect for protocol with genuine human relationships." The tension that had filled the garden pavilion began to dissipate, as all three individuals found themselves united in their commitment to both duty and family. The morning that had started with such promise, then become complicated by protocol concerns, was ending with a deeper understanding of how tradition and love could coexist. As Captain Harrison stepped back to his respectful distance, Camilla and Charlotte found themselves looking at each other with new appreciation. The unexpected challenge had actually strengthened their relationship by forcing them to articulate what their connection meant and how it could be preserved within the context of royal life. Charlotte reached out and took Camilla's hand, a gesture that was both affectionate and appropriately dignified. "Thank you for showing me how to handle difficult situations with grace," she said quietly. Camilla squeezed her step-granddaughter's hand gently. "And thank you for reminding me that wisdom often comes from the youngest among us," she replied. The rest of their visit proceeded smoothly, with both formal acknowledgments and genuine family warmth finding their appropriate places in the interaction. Captain Harrison maintained his professional oversight while recognizing that his role was to support and protect the royal family's relationships, not to interfere with them unnecessarily. By the time Camilla prepared to leave Windsor Castle that afternoon, all three individuals had learned something valuable. Charlotte had gained a deeper understanding of the complexity of royal life. Camilla had been reminded of the importance of protocol in maintaining royal dignity, and Captain Harrison had learned that effective security sometimes meant knowing when flexibility served the institution better than rigid adherence to rules. The incident would become a story told within palace circles as an example of how royal protocol could evolve to serve both institutional needs and human relationships. It demonstrated that true respect for tradition meant understanding its purpose and applying it wisely, rather than following rules blindly without considering their impact on the people they were meant to serve. As evening fell over Windsor Castle, the lessons learned in the garden pavilion continued to resonate, creating a foundation for future interactions that would honor both the dignity of royal positions and the irreplaceable value of genuine family love.